Committee for the chapter, Jonah Francis.
Wow. Michael, that was awesome. All right, so I feel so blessed even to be able to go after such awesome and amazing speakers. Thank you all for sharing your stories. And I'm happy to be here to share my story with you all today as well. In 2013, my mother started a home care agency, and if I'm being completely honest, I was kind of voluntold. But from day one, majority of the people that we are responsible for helping were living with dementia. And while that is a part of the reason why I volunteer, which led me to being a proud member of the board for Connecticut, my story starts even before ever entering the senior care field. I feel like life is a series of uncoincidental coincidences. Try saying that 5 times fast. But that was my grandmother's saying when it came down to things that appeared to be a coincidence, but really weren't. They were just preparing you for something else, right? And for me, that was seeing what dementia did to my grandmother and my father back in 2011. We're Jamaican. And in the midst of a snowstorm in Connecticut, my grandmother thought she was still in Jamaica and wandered out of the house barefoot in her nightgown. Nothing else on. Before then and even after, I have never seen my father shed a tear. And if you asked him, he'd never admit to it. That night he wept. My dad cried not because of what his mother did. He cried because my grandmother couldn't remember his name. She didn't know who he was, and in that moment wanted nothing to do with him. My dad was a strong man. My grandmother was strong. My grandmother is strong. She single-handedly raised 6 kids, 5 of them were boys, and took in another in a third world country, all while running a restaurant without walls. And you guys can ask me about that in the hallway. My grandmother was strong. I'm shaking. My grandmother was strong. She used to tell me the importance of my name and would sing it to me every night before I went to sleep. And if you guys are all right with it, I'd like to share that with you today. But I need your help. And it's gonna be easy. You don't gotta sing, right? All you gotta do is tap your feet, that's 1, and you're gonna clap twice, 2, 3, all right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Jonah, Jonah, where are you going? Jonah, Jonah, where are you going? Oh, Jonah, Jonah, where are you going? And my response as a kid was, I'm going to Nineveh to warn. If you're into church, you understand the story of Jonah. That's my grandmother, and that's who I choose to remember. And as I said, I too now believe life is a series of uncoincidental coincidences. Say that 5 times fast. I went from not knowing what dementia is to being a community educator, to setting up resource tables at local events, and now running a men's-only caregiver support group to give people like my father I run that group to give people like my father a sense of community and to feel safe, to share their stories without feeling judged. I volunteer to continue learning how to help my clients and their families. I volunteer to help change the future of this horrible disease, especially for Black people. I volunteer because I have a newborn son. He's 6 months old. And I want to protect him as best I can from this disease. I volunteer in honor of my grandmother and to finally be able to answer that question, this time as an adult, right? You remember that song, Where Are You Going, Jonah? Well, I'm going to help, and her story is helping me do just that. So that's my story. That's my story. I don't do it for the recognition. I do it to make a difference in this world. And as Michael shared a few moments ago, telling your story is important because it can help people who don't know about Alzheimer's and dementia find a connection. Telling your story can increase our reach and ensure that at next year's summit, we have no one that can say, I wish I knew about the resources offered by this association. I challenge you all today to tell your story. Your story will have an impact. Your story will help reduce stigma, educate others about dementia, and bring in more volunteers to help with this cause. So as my grandmother would say to me, I say to you, where are you going and what's your story? Thank you.